Hi, it's Kevin May, the Editor-in-Chief of PhocusWire. We're here with Brenna Fleener. You are the Director of Marketing for Context Travel. So, Context Travel is an interesting little business, isn't it? So, little is probably the wrong word. You're a very, very big global business.
We're emerging, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, give us the brief 30-second overview of what that is, and then we'll dive into some questions, because I think it's interesting.
Okay. So Context, we're essentially a network of scholars and experts. We operate today in about 50 cities around the world, so we're pretty well spread between Europe and Asia, Latin America, North America as well. But what we really try to deliver is an in-depth experience that really kind of gets under the skin of a city, and everything we do is private and or very small group, so it's really about kind of creating an intimate environment and connecting with people on the ground.
Right, so you probably wouldn't call them tour guides, would you not?
We wouldn't. Traditionally, through the history of Context, we've talked about our guides as docents.
Docents.
And that's because we started as really around a core of scholarly itineraries, and so we were very much, going to museums and going really in depth in those kinds of environments. We've expanded a bit since then, so we now operate more in kind of a lifestyle area as well. But we do really hold true to that really in-depth expertise of all of our guides.
And are they locals that run those, or are the people that come in and do it in a particular city?
It's both. So we recruit locally in each of our cities. So no matter where you are, it is someone who lives there.
Okay.
But in a lot of cases, they're expats, they're professors, or people getting their PhDs at the local universities, or people who have lived there their whole lives. So it pretty well covers the gamut.
Right. So we've got the background.
Okay.
So we've covered all that. So. This market is kind of getting a little bit interested in this multi-city branded tours thing.
Yeah.
So there's a rather large tours and activities online travel agency called Get Your Guide that made
I've heard of them. Yeah.
They're fairly big. So,
yeah.
Or at least they would like to say they are. But jokes aside, but I mean, they make quite a big thing about we are going into branded guides. First of all, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And how do you? I'm presuming because of the scholarly aspect that you mentioned, that you say that's the point of differentiation.
Yeah, I'll start with the branded piece. I do think that's a big trend that we're seeing and certainly trying to kind of latch onto, is this emergence of brand over sort of mass marketplace operators.
Yep.
And I might be biased, I come from a brand background, so I very much believe that there is really something to delivering on a promise to the consumer and the consistency that a brand can provide and create. That said, we really think our differentiator is the quality of our guides and the experts that we have across the world. So we do really think of them as all fitting underneath the Context brand.
Right.
Even though they're certainly individuals and have different areas of expertise and come from all different kinds of backgrounds, but they are all in a way sort of cut from the same cloth.
Okay, so one of the conundrums in this tours and activities sector is, that people like Get Your Guide and yourself perhaps have to face is that a lot of the decision making when you're going somewhere is done once you're there, once you've seen what the weather's going to be like, and so, but you want to be a bit further forward in the funnel, right? So how do you kind of grapple that?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. I wish I had a silver bullet, but that is, exactly what we're talking about in the office every day, is how do we get tours and on-the-ground activities earlier in the funnel so that it's part of that decision process, instead of it being, flight, city choice, flight, hotel, and then tours sort of happens later down here.
That other thing, right?
It's sort of, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is to do, one thing that we're really investing in and thinking about is really trying to build our brand and doing a lot of storytelling around our brand.
Okay.
And really leaning into marketing to get ahead of in front of people earlier, so that it isn't necessarily that last minute thing that you just sort of happen to stumble into.
Right, but as we know, marketing is not a cheap game. So
it is
so
not.
How do you kind of meet? It is a challenge. So how do you meet it? Given that you want to be at the beginning of the funnel, when you're effectively going up against people that are, perhaps they don't necessarily want a scholarly tour of the Louvre. They want just a dare I say, a normal tour of the Louvre. So how do you grapple that from a marketing perspective?
Well, I think one thing that we really try to do at Context, and that we're really, I think, fortunate to have, is a network of really incredible clients. So Context has been around for 15 years. We have an incredibly high repeat and loyalty rate, and so we've really grown over the past 15 years through word of mouth.
Right.
And that, for us, we haven't quite cracked the code, but I think that will be a big unlock for us, is just, really building out those brand advocates and making sure that we're asking our clients to help us as much as possible in kind of spreading the word.
Right, but do you have to spend more in digital marketing as the years go by, because there is more competition and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's part spend, of course, but we're never, as a smaller operator, we're never going to be able to compete with the Airbnbs of the world, and just in terms of kind of advertising spend.
Right.
So it really is, I think, about leveraging our networks and just getting smarter and more targeted with the spends, and being sure that we really are starting with our consumer in mind and talking to the right people.
Right. So who would you say is your biggest competitor? Is it other organizations that provide arguably commoditized tours, or is it the Airbnbs of this world that are trying to go for that, inverted commas, unique experience?
Yeah. That is a good question, and honestly, so Context is a bit of a, we sort of play in a middle ground, which is a little weird in a way, because we do have competition really on both ends of the spectrum. So we are very much up against, I think, Airbnb experiences, even Get Your Guide, those kind of broad, brand forward organizations.
For time,
of course, we're competing for the same time on the same trips, and it's maybe not exactly the same consumer, but it's very much in that same area. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum, and then we have on the other side small, very locally owned and operated organizations that work only in Rome or only in Paris, and so don't have the global reach, but are delivering really great product in a very localized way. So it's such a broad competitive set.
So you're competing with everybody, is what
essentially,
you're saying.
yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's most of your customers, are they coming to you direct, or do you work through intermediaries?
We have two kind of sides of the business. One is direct, and the other one is indirect, which for us is really through travel agents.
So this is bricks and mortar travel agencies rather than online, or?
A little bit of both, yeah, we work with both.
Okay, so you would distribute via Get Your Guide, for example, then?
We have not gone there yet, and it's very much, to date, it's really been part of our DNA to really own the experience. So we sell through brick and mortar travel agents.
Yeah.
We do distribute, we're certainly like listed on TripAdvisor and things like that, but we operate always as Context Travel, so we haven't yet gotten to a place where we're white labeling out tours or guides.
Is this something that you would consider, though, just because it just opens up a different channel for you?
Yeah, I mean, never say never, right? It hasn't really been part of our DNA to date, and I think we still have a lot of opportunity to build our standalone brand as we think about growth, but the industry's changing so much, and to scale, I think we're all collectively going to have to think about how we really do that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for talking to us. Thank you.